Well, it's just about to be noon. And if y'all wouldn't mind, I can just go ahead and start. I think we have quite a few people in our room. Very excited for you all to be here. My name is Robert Taylor, and I'm a librarian here at UNT Dallas. And I've been here for about 10 years. I started as a graduate student here at UNT Dallas, and I've been lucky enough to work here and grow as a librarian and see this campus grow, and very excited to be working with all of the trailblazers in the STEM Center. And we're really looking forward to our new STEM, our science building, and seeing our STEM program grow. And one of the things that think I can, hopefully, what I'd like to do is inspire, basically reading and literacy, even amongst college students and our undergrad students, because we just assume that people are reading and are excited about reading, but sometimes that's not so. And just talk about the importance of reading and reading widely. And whenever I'm today, I've been given the topic of differentiating between scholarly material and popular material. And I do see this, especially with undergrad students, where they get confused and to try to differentiate between what is popular and what is scholarly. I personally believe that we should be reading widely, um, and there's nothing wrong with reading popular material, and it serves a great purpose even in when we're developing ourselves as scholars and becoming scientists. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about popular material, some best ways that we can use it to help us grow our knowledge on the world around us, about the world around us. And I'll show you how to use our library databases to access publications. And we'll do a quick search of our database. I'll show you how to develop a search query to find academic research the way I show students on a daily basis. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to just talk about reading popular material and academic material, how to identify academic material, and then how to find the research, and also how to find these popular publications through our library, because that's one of the great things we have as people that have connections to an academic library, is that you don't have to subscribe to any of these great journals or magazines or newspapers, because you have it all through your library. And a lot of times, especially our students, forget that. And whenever I'm talking, just so that I can kind of like visualize for myself, I like to come up with like a metaphor or an image. And when I think of scientific endeavors and scientific literacy and reading, I kind of think of it as an infinite puzzle. Every time we learn something new, we are basically finding a piece of this puzzle that is basically reality that we exist in as human beings. So, like, if we can imagine the universe, the complete Earth, all of nature as this enigmatic puzzle, this puzzle is not one that becomes less complex with when we find a piece. Instead, this puzzle grows more intricate and fascinating as we learn more about the puzzle and as we see the puzzle grow. And that's the beauty of the scientific exploration, is that the more we learn, the more we realize how much there is yet to be discovered. We'll never know everything, in other words. Each piece of knowledge we gain is like a puzzle piece, adding to our understanding and revealing a bit more of the grand picture all around us. So we can have a puzzle box that we can get maybe over winter break and put it together with friends and family. But on a normal puzzle, we'll see the pieces on the cover. We'll see the entire puzzle before us. We'll know how it's going to end. That's not the case with the cosmic puzzle that we have before us, because it's ever expanding, much like the universe itself. The universe was a certain size when we began talking together this morning or this afternoon, but now it's much larger. There's many more stars that have been burst into existence, and some have been snuffed out forever. The universe is just that big, and it's ever expanding. And that's something that should be a wonderful thing, because there will always be something new to discover. And we will never fully complete this puzzle. but that's, again, exhilarating. There will always be something new to unravel, new questions to ask, new horizons to explore. And of course, being a trailblazer here at UNT Dallas, I have to say that there will always be new trails set to blaze. But right, so let's say go trailblazers, guys. So let's embrace the journey together as part of this scientific community because we are better when we're curious. So let's be curious, let's read widely and read purposefully. And remember that every piece of knowledge that we acquire prepares us to contribute to the scientific discourse. We're not meant to be passive observers. We're meant to be active participants in the quest to understand the universe that's all around us. And by reading, it helps us prepare ourselves to be a participant. So, reading, I like to tell undergraduate students, reading is something that we have to do. We can't just like watch the news or listen to things. We really need to be reading books, reading widely, reading newspaper articles and magazines. There's a thing that happens in our minds and our brains when we read and we put things and ideas together. It's you don't capture the same amount of understanding and comprehension when you just listen to things. You want to be reading, you want to be taking notes, you want to be interfacing with the what you read. So this reading process is going to help us become more conversant with the literature that we're facing, and also it's going to allow us to take part in the conversation with other scientists and scholars. So I'm not saying that we should only read really high literature. We should also be reading popular literature, and that means you should be reading widely. You can read most literature, popular literature is written to entertain and to inform. So, you know what? If you like to read manga, comic books, those are great sources of literature. Read your romance novels, read your spy action novels, uh, learn to enjoy to read because every reader, for every reader, there is a book, but not every book is for every reader. But you're going to find your book. So have fun, learn to enjoy to read, but also read materials that challenge you. Maybe that allows you to look at things from a different vantage point politically. Try to look at things from someone else's point of view. Develop empathy and learn to see others for the humanity that they have, rather than just being an other. Beyond reading for entertainment, you can also read popular material to become an informed citizen, so that you can make informed decisions, you know, through voting and through being politically active, speaking up for others and speaking up for causes. Do that by reading this popular material to help inform you. So today we're going to talk about two types of popular literature that you can find. Oh, I should say this. This is one of my favorite paintings, and this is kind of like when I go to my first day in a biology class or my first day in a chemistry lab. This is kind of what I see when I'm looking at a field for the first time. You know, it can be kind of daunting, all the mist and covers up everything, but don't worry, you're there to explore and to slowly learn, and all that mist will go away as we learn more about our topic that we're reading about. And that's the great thing about reading; it helps us learn about our topics. But popular literature, of course, can be daily newspapers, magazines. Now we have blogs and internet media, general audience books. We want to talk about today, focusing in on daily newspapers and magazines. And let's look at popular magazines. Why would we want to read these popular magazines? Well, by reading popular magazines, we can again stay informed about current events and issues that contribute, the magazines contribute to our understanding of the world. Magazines often also cover the latest trends in various fields, from fashion and technology to science and politics. They also provide in-depth articles on a wide range of topics, helping us to gain a deeper understanding of areas of interest and maybe some areas that you're not aware of, you don't have much information about. They can inspire you to and spark your creativity. It could inspire you to take a new course, or read a new book, or reveal a gap in your knowledge on a particular subject. And of course, reading magazines regularly can also improve your language skills, expanding your vocabulary and enhancing your understanding of grammar and sentence structures. You're basically reading the best authors working in the field, and that's going to rub off on you. It's going to refine your own reading and your own writing abilities, because reading will feed into writing, basically. So some popular magazines that you should be reading, at least you should be aware of, are magazines like The Atlantic and The New Yorker. They provide you great long form articles. The Atlantic is mostly nonfiction. Almost like each article is like a documentary. So if you like documentaries, each article is like reading a intriguing documentary. The New Yorker focuses a lot on fiction and poetry. And as a literature major myself, and not necessarily in the sciences, I would like to say that, poets love to play with language, and they see the world in a different way. And one of my favorite poets, Goethe, he was a novelist and a poet. He actually looked at this one scientist's work called Luke Howard, who is distinguished for the person who named the clouds. And that so sparked the imagination of Goethe that he wrote poems about Luke Howard. Luke Howard is the one that gave us the cumulus nimbus, and he named clouds, and that just sparked the imagination of poets. So science and poetry can play together. Poets with the words, how do we describe the world, and scientists how we understand the world. Wired magazine, of course, is fun articles that demonstrate the connections between science, technology, and culture. And then The Economist provides you global coverage of politics and how it interplays with the economy. Now, I will say that, you should also be looking at political magazines. An example would be Mother Jones and National Review. If you lean a little bit left, you should be reading the National Review. Become an avid reader of that, because that's a magazine that leans to the right. And if you are someone who leans right, you should become an avid reader of Mother Jones or another journal or magazine that leans left. So again, so you can see the different sides of the same issue, and this will give you a more nuanced understanding of those issues. There's also popular scientific magazines that you should be reading, and here's a list of those. Again, you can access all of these through our library resources. The next thing we want to talk about is newspapers. And I talked to many undergraduates, and I rarely find an undergraduate who reads a newspaper these days, but the newspapers are so vitally important. And most of the time when I'm talking about newspapers, I'm talking about national newspapers. If you should also read local newspapers like the Dallas Morning News, Fort Worth Star Telegram. And when you're reading those, focus in on the metropolitan section so you can get the local news. Keep an eye on your local politicians and local crime and things of that nature. But national newspapers, they are good because they cover a wide range of topics, including politics, economics, culture. They have great science coverage. And reading helps you stay informed about the national issues and events. Again, it keeps you informed. You're an informed citizen. Newspapers also provide diverse viewpoints on various topics, helping you understand, again, the different perspectives and broadening your own. You don't want to have a narrow perspective, especially as a scientist. You want to keep your eyes open, stay skeptical, but be curious. And of course, again, regular reading can enhance your vocabulary, comprehension, and grammar skills. I like to, if I'm coming up with a word and I'm not sure about the usage of the word, I often will go to Google, type in site:nyt.com, and then type in the word that I'm, or word or phrase that I'm thinking about using, and see if it's been used in the New York Times in the same way that I want to use it. Because if it's being used by New York Times reporters and being approved by their editors, then it's probably good enough for me to use. That's just a little tip that you can possibly use for yourself. And of course, the national newspapers often present complex issues that require critical thinking to understand fully. And this is way better than watching, for instance, CNN or any type of cable news networks of your choice. By reading a well-written newspaper article, you're going to get a better view on the complex issues at hand. So some examples of newspapers, of course, are the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Washington Post, Chicago Tribune. You know, the New York Times is the paper of record in the United States. She's the gray lady, and it's a great newspaper to read. Now, these are daily papers, so it might be kind of overwhelming to read. So there is a kind of a concept of ritualistic reading where you make a promise to yourself, set up a time, set up a place, an area, maybe in your house while you're drinking your coffee. Say, I'm going to give 30 minutes a week or an hour a week to read the newspaper. And I suggest to picking one of these national newspapers like the New York Times or the Washington Post and digging into the news coverage on the Sunday newspaper, the Sunday edition, because this will be a time where they spend a little bit more time in these editions to provide greater context on the news of the week. And you also are not reading things that in a daily newspaper fashion, like on the weekdays, it'll become kind of like trivial. We'll forget these things, but the Sunday paper usually is a much, we're learning more about the context of the actual stories, and they go a little bit deeper in detail. So it's a great way to stay informed. And again, New York Times and Washington Post would be great uh, places to do that. So just making a commitment to yourself to read those papers would really help you out in being informed. So before we move on, let me show you how to access these publications in our library databases. So I'm just going to go to UNT Dallas Library. I'm going to go into Google and type in UNT Dallas Library. And here's our library page. Under quick links, we're going to click on electronic resources. Here's where we can find links to all of our databases. On the right-hand side, we're going to click under popular databases. We're going to click EBSCO EDS. This is one of our multi-database search engines. And for UNT Dallas students, this is the database that I suggest you use when you're first starting your search. It's a great place to search. It's going to be searching, again, multiple databases, gives you cross-disciplinary information, but it's also where we have our publication finder. So if you go to the left-hand sidebar, you'll see research tools. You can click on publications. And now you can type in the name of the journal, for instance, New York Times, and you'll see some additional, some suggestions. New York Times Book Review is a great once weekly magazine to read also, but we're looking for the actual newspaper. So here's the newspaper. You also might note that there's the online version. The online version is going to give you articles that were exclusively published on the newspaper's website. This should give you articles that were published in the print edition. Let's click here. So This gives you the ISSN number. You might want to save that for future reference. This is the same as a book ISBN, which is an International Standard Book Number. The ISSN is the standard serial number. So you can search also by the serial number if you wish. And this is the database that we have access to. I would suggest using ProQuest Central to find the New York Times, to read the New York Times, but you can check any of these databases and just note that this is the date range of availability. And this is, I think, one of the longest date ranges we have. It's similar to Nexus Uni. I personally like ProQuest Central's interface over Nexus Uni. The newspaper comes every morning, 5:30 or 6. You get the latest edition. And here we're searching the current edition, September 22, 2023. And this is all the articles that we have available to us. So you can select a date, a year. You can also search within this paper. So if we type in STEM, click search, we can see that there are 2 articles, but this one, that it's them using the term STEM, may STEM, and that conclusion stems. So it's actually not science, technology, engineering, and math. It's using an actual word. We might type in science instead. But you can type in to see if any articles are being published on science in that particular paper. Now, something else you can do is you can also search within the publication itself to see all the coverage over time in this journal, or New York Times, I should say. When we type in climate change, we'll see that there's 21,000 articles that mention climate change published in the last 40 years or so, since 1980. And what I like to do when I like to create a kind of a newsstand for myself. And you can do that if you click on ProQuest Central again, and you can go up here and you should be looking for a permalink or persistent link, and it's right here is copy URL. If you click that, this will just give you a persistent link that you can use. And once you click on that, so maybe put it in an email or put it into a Word document that you can always have. And that way you can click on the link and it'll always send you back to this page, so you don't have to go back to the publication finder. So the publication finder is where we search to see if we subscribe to popular magazines, newspapers, magazines, but also academic journals, so specific academic journals. And you can search by title and the ISSN number. So let's get back to our presentation here. And that's going to close our talk about popular literature. Something, well, I should say in closing, popular literature is also written in a language that is language that's meant to communicate to the widest group of people. The New York Times is probably the language that they use is probably the most elevated. It's written at a 10th grade level, but they say that it might take someone with a 12th grade education to fully comprehend the articles published in the New York Times. But most other newspapers, like the USA Today, is written on a much lower level because they want as many people to be able to read and enjoy the paper and to learn from it. So it's written on certain levels that are, again, meant to be attractive to the broadest population of readers. Academic literature is just the opposite. It uses specific technical language that you might have to have an undergrad or graduate degree, or maybe be a subject-specific field expert to really understand and comprehend the work. And as I look at academic literature, I like to split them up into two different types of literature: primary literature and secondary literature. Both of them serve a purpose. And I always have students come to me and they tell me I need a peer-reviewed research study, and they do not know what peer-reviewed means, and they really don't know what research studies mean. So, of course, a peer-reviewed study is a process where a field-specific expert reviews an article and carefully checks for accuracy and reliability the information being disseminated in the research. In other words, it is a rigorous vetting process. And of course, it's the vetting process is being conducted on the research study itself, which is a systematic process of exploring a scientific topic, and they explore that topic by collecting and analyzing data, and their goal is to gain greater insights on the phenomenon that they're studying. They're trying to answer their questions, their research questions or their hypothesis, and they're ultimately trying to possibly solve a problem, but it's usually a very specific problem. And I want to talk a little bit about two types of primary literature, that being the empirical research would be the first type of primary literature. And empirical research is a type of research that is based on empirical evidence. And that's usually what I tell students, just think about empirical research deals with concrete evidence. And the evidence is the data that has either been observed or experienced directly by the researchers. This is a way to gain knowledge through direct or indirect observation or experience. This type of research is guided by scientific experimentation and or the evidence that they're viewing. In empirical research, the conclusions are exclusively derived from the concrete, verifiable evidence. In other words, they're reporting on raw data, basically, and they're showing you, the reader, that data. So this means that the study uses real-world evidence to investigate its assertions. Empirical research can involve both quantitative and qualitative methods for gathering their evidence. And sometimes they can do mixed methods where both quantitative and qualitative methods are being used. On the opposite side, you might say, is theoretical research. Theories are explanations of how things work or why they happen. Theoretical research is a type of research that aims to develop and refine theories. They often are based upon empirical research, but they can also be developed based upon solely on logic and reasoning and rationality. Theoretical research studies help us to develop new theories and explanations, while empirical research studies help us to test and validate those theories. So we have our theories, like the theory of evolution, theory of gravity, and those help us see the world. But in our empirical research also helps us further define the theories. So in other words, when Charles Darwin came up with he didn't come up with it, but when he first published his work that helped us to discover and develop the theory of evolution, his views are much different than our views today because we've had thousands of empirical research studies to help us better understand the that theory. So we still are using the theory of evolution to explain how the origins of life, but our understanding is much different because of empiricism. So oftentimes I have students, they have a problem with identifying research studies, or in other words, in identifying primary research studies. So the good thing to note that we can determine if an article is a research study or if it's a secondary literature, because most modern research is organized using common sections. And of course, like it was to see on the screen here, those common sections are, they'll have an introduction, a method section. Sometimes, especially in the field of sciences, they'll be also called materials and methods or methodology. If it's a purely empirical research study, you'll most likely just see method. If it is a science research study that uses certain materials, you'll have materials and methods. And that's because if you wanted to reproduce the work, you need to know what types of uh, materials or substances were used, because if you use slightly different substances or materials, it will add to a variability that will change the outcomes of the experiment. So it would harm if you were trying to reproduce the work. And methodology is mostly used for theoretical research. You also have the results section, discussions, and references. And I also tell students that they're struggling to try to find primary research. You're really looking for that method section, because that's where they talk about what they did. So if we can look at a little bit closer at these sections for undergrads and students who are just starting out reading the primary literature, each one of these sections actually kind of plays a major part in how they can use these sections to read more purposefully and gain more information quickly. And that's if they understand why the sections are being written. So an introduction, it provides an overview of the research topic. It outlines the research problem and states the purpose and objectives of the study. It also includes a brief literature review detailing the most significant research that influenced the current work. And it includes the research questions or hypotheses. Now, what I tell students is they really want to focus on the literature review that's found in every research study. So if you find one research study that is on your topic, make sure you're looking at those articles that the researchers chose to include in that short, very selective literature review. And that's also a key, is students most of the time, especially undergrads, they're just looking for an article on their topic. But we really want them to move into trying to find the most impactful research. And this is one way of doing that, because these are experts in their field. They're disseminating research. And when they introduce that literature review in the introduction, they are selectively choosing research, basically. So you can see that these are selective. The authors are supposed to be only citing the best work, the most impactful work. So this is a way for you to kind of piggyback on these experts and be looking at those articles. So I encourage students to chase down the articles uh, that what you're reading, what they're citing, basically, and read those articles for yourself and widen your understanding and your bibliography, basically. The methods section, of course, we talked about the materials, methods, and just methodology, is a section that describes how the research was conducted. It includes details about the participants, the materials used, and the procedures followed. It allows other researchers to replicate the study. Again, this is the heart of the research, and why you would want to read this. As if you're an undergrad, you might be thinking, how would I ever conduct original research? Well, be reading the methodology and studying these methodologies, because they're showing you how research is conducted in a particular field or area that they're writing in, that they're working in. So once, especially in empirical research, once the researchers tell you what they're going to do, they describe the process that they're going to go through, they actually go into the real world and they present their findings. And they do this in an organized manner. It includes data in the forms of tables, charts, and graphs. But it's a key thing is they don't interpret or discuss these findings in the results section. This could be very challenging because it's basically they're just presenting their raw data, and that's very challenging for undergrad students. But what I challenge you to do if you're an undergrad is just to read this, take as much out of this as you can, ask your professor questions. You're going to be taking courses that are going to help you learn about the results section. Just take as much out as you can, and don't feel too bad because although they're presenting you the data here in the results section and they're not telling you much about it, they save that interpretation for the discussion section, because in the discussion section they are interpreting and explaining the results, and they're relating that explanation and interpretation back to the research questions and the hypothesis that they first discussed in the introduction section. And their discussion kind of centers around whether the results support or contradicts existing theories or studies. They talk about how their discussions, how their findings reflects on our understanding of the field and the area in which they're discussing and studying. And finally, the reference section lists all sources that were cited in the paper, and it allows readers to locate and review the original sources if they wish. So this is a great tool. If you find 3 articles on the same topic, you could take just the references and then try to find commonalities. If you find the same articles published being cited in each, then you kind of found a seminal paper. And if you find the same authors being mentioned, then you're looking at possibly our authors that are leading theorists or leading researchers in that particular area. And of course, common journals is a way for you to understand that these are journals that are publishing. They could have published additional work that you might want to be looking for. So you go to our publication finder and then maybe read through our abstracts that are available for the articles, or do a search, because you can search within a journal through the publication finder and to see if they have any additional work that you might want to be reading. So that is primary research. Primary research is organized, and it has that methodology section that you want to be looking for. And you can tell it's much different than popular literature, because popular literature is not going to have a methodology section. They're not going to be presenting data, and they're definitely not, most of the time, they're not even going to be presenting sources. Matter of fact, some newspaper reporters will go to prison over protecting their sources, where in the academic world, it's just the opposite. If you don't present your sources, you could have your paper retracted and you could lose your job. It's a great unethical problem, because science is supposed to be transparent, or as transparent as possible. But that is the primary literature. Now let's look at some secondary literature. And secondary literature can become in the form of books, general books. It can come in the form of subject-specific dictionaries, and manuals and guides, and also literature reviews. What they do is they try to synthesize the information, the original research, and they try to condense or summarize the results of the primary research. And they provide us with a broad overview of the field, which is perfect for undergrad students. So it's a great place to start your research. If you don't understand much about it, remember the painting of the man standing on the cliff in the misty mountains. That guy needs a literature review so he can better understand where he's going. It's sort of like a map that it provides you with good background information. And literature reviews are the things that you're most likely going to be confronting, that you're going to be confronted with, I should say. And literature reviews provide, again, background for understanding current knowledge on a topic. And again, it's based upon when it was published. So if it's literature review published in 1990, it's based upon that's going to give you information of how we viewed that part of the field in 1990. But it does provide you an understanding of current knowledge on a topic, and they also include the major debates and trends in that particular area or topic. It's great for methodological review. So it reviews the literature and allows researchers to quickly learn about what methods are being used in previous studies. And this can help you guide you in choosing your own methods for your own research. And the peer review process attempts to when you publish in a primary research journal, they're supposed to be publishing original research. So a literature review will help you determine very quickly if your thoughts or what you want to research has already been done before, and that will save you time because the last thing you want to do is duplicate work that's already been produced. But more likely, you're going to be finding gaps in the literature because there's huge gaps all over the place. Because again, the puzzle is very big and it's ever expanding. Literature reviews helps you identify the gaps in the literature. And it also allows us to support new research efforts. Maybe helps justify the need for a new study or a new frame on a particular topic. But why should students read literature reviews? Let's say undergrad students. Again, it helps us understand the research landscape. It provides an overview of the major findings in a particular field or area. It helps us understand the context of a topic or problem. But the biggest one is citing sources. So what I really encourage students to do is to read these resources, read these literature reviews, and chase down the articles for themselves and read those articles for themselves, and of course creating broadening their bibliography and their knowledge on that particular topic. So again, what I was tasked to do was to talk about popular and academic, the differences between the two. So here we are. Let's look at this. The purpose of an academic article. Sorry, we got these mixed up. The purpose is to simply share research findings. That's all an academic article is meant to do. Whenever you're writing and publishing a research study, you're disseminating your research. Whereas popular articles are to inform and entertain. Authors of academic articles are researchers and scholars. Authors of popular articles can be anyone, freelance writers. The language that our academic articles use is technical. The language in popular articles are accessible. The review process in an academic article is a rigorous peer review process. And they do review articles in popular magazines, but it's for style and grammar. And of course, our sources are cited in detail for academic articles, and they may not cite their sources in popular articles. And I just wanted to provide you a little picture there. The New England Journal of Medicine has been basically the same cover for the last 100 years. It's just a table of content, whereas People magazine, it's meant to entertain and inform with nice pictures and color. I have a question or a comment. I thought I might have heard somebody. So let's spend the last few minutes together looking at how we search for research articles in our library database, and just show you what I share with students. And then for the sake of time, let's just go over this kind of broadly. But basically what I tell students is we want to compose a research question for ourselves. And this doesn't have to really be a complex research question. It's just meant to be something to get the idea out of our head on a sheet of paper where we can see it for ourselves. And we can work with that and build upon it, basically. And we'll take that research question, we'll break the question down into the main ideas call those keywords, because when we're searching our databases, we're actually searching for the words found in the article. Then we want to brainstorm synonyms for keywords. So that means just trying to find as many words that are in that are similar. And when you're looking for research studies, know that research studies, primary research, uses formal language, where popular literature uses informal language. Great example would be if you're a teacher and you might have a research question that says, I want to find out information about how kids learn to read. The word kid is informal English for young human beings, but the scientific language would be more specific. A young human being is not a kid, it's a child or a student. So use more specific language, in other words, and try to match the language that your authors are going to be using. And then you want to select about 3 keywords to search, and you want to connect those with Boolean operators. And there's 3 Boolean operators, and, or, and not. You're probably going to mostly use and or. And narrows your search. So that means if you search dog and cat, you're only going to find articles that mentions both dog and cat. But if you use the word or, you're going to find articles. If you search for cat or kitten, you're going to find articles that mentions cat and or kitten. Right, so it makes your search much larger. Your search results will be much larger because you're going to be looking for all those words. And of course, not, if you use Dallas, not Cowboys, you'll be searching for the city, not the football team, or maybe the name. Dallas is a name. The one thing is and or can be used anywhere in your search query. Not has to be used at the end of the search query, but I wouldn't use not very much unless you really have to. And or is what you want to focus in on. When you're creating a search query, I like to create like an umbrella term. That's a term that represents an overall topic. For example, we can use the word medicine. And then you can use parentheses to group keywords, creating like a basket or, logical searching. So for instance, we could say surgery, operation, or surgical procedure. And what the database is actually doing is it's using orders of operation. So in other words, parenthetical expressions are ran first. So if we used search surgery or operation or surgical procedure and then and medicine, because surgery is in parentheses, that's going to be ran first. And now our results are going to basically be every article that mentions these words that also mentions medicine. One last thing that I like to do, I'd like have students to do, is to use a word that describes a type of academic literature. So if you're looking for an empirical research study, add and study. If you're looking for a theoretical research, add and theory. Literature reviews, add review. And then, of course, you can do case study. There's many different others you can use, but usually study or theory, study and review is great. And oftentimes, if you're first doing an initial search, maybe study or review would be useful, because that way you'll get empirical research studies and those literature reviews. So if we put together a search query, this would be the search query that we could use if we wanted to find information. Like our research question would be, can we use 3D printing in the field of medicine when it comes to surgery or operations? So let me take this. Matter of fact, let me get rid of that. But let's take this into our EBSCO EDS, our multi-database search engine, and let's look at how this works. Again, we're going to go to our A to Z page to see all of the links to our databases. We're going to click EBSCO EDS. And we can just type our search query in here. We're going to be searching for, our umbrella term is medicine. We're looking for the field of medicine, and then we're going to be running this search here for the word surgery or operation or surgical procedures. So the database is actually going to be searching this first. So we're going to get all of the literature that mentions this, and then the ones, it has to also include medicine and 3D printing. We're going to be selecting all text. So that means we're going to be searching all available text. That's the title of the article, the abstract or summary, the body, and the references. So if any of these words appear anywhere in that text that's available to us, That's what we're going to be returning. That's what we're going to be searching. But I'm going to be a little sneaky here, and I'm going to take study and review out of that. And I'm going to move it down to the second term. You notice these are linked by and I'm going to put this in a parentheses also. And I'm actually going to, we're going to leave it as and, but we're going to be studying, looking for the use of the word study or review, not in all the text, because they could mention the word study or review somewhere and it not be related to the articles that we're looking for. I want to change this to the abstract. Abstracts are 250 words or less, focused in on the article itself. And the researchers, when they're conducting empirical research, they'll usually say, in this study, we did such and such. Or if it's a review, we review the literature. So that's what we're going to do here. And if it's in the abstract, they use these words, it's most likely they're talking about their actual work. So that's why we're doing that. We can also go down here and say we want to look at peer-reviewed. Take note that just because we click up peer-reviewed, this means peer-reviewed journals. And peer-reviewed journals publish both primary and secondary information. We want to go here to date range, and I suggest that you always search the past 5 years, at least in your initial search. You're going to get citations to all the seminal older papers, but this will allow you to read the most recent information most quickly. Now we should be ready to click search. In a moment, it'll come back to us. Even though it's taking time, this is actually remarkable that this works at all the way we had to do it in the old days. So look at this. Our keywords will be highlighted or in bold. So full-size, realistic 3D printed models of liver and tumor anatomy, a useful tool for the clinical medicine education beginning trainees. You'll see your title, a snippet of the abstract, but right here I also want you to take note of is the subject terms. These are the central themes of the article. So this article is about surgical education, clinical medicine. This is the most important aspect of this article. And it mentions 3D printing in the title. We go down here, we have a review. So this is a research review, a literature review, I should say. I'm sorry. And then right here, application of 3D printing. So what you can do here is you can also search by subject term. So if you scroll up to the top of the page, you see all filters. If you click all filters, a sidebar will open up. We can click on source type and just click on academic journals. The reason why this appears is because we're searching multiple databases, and some databases refer to academic journals as peer-reviewed, others as academic journals. Click both of those. Then you can go to subject terms. These are the main central themes. And look at this, three-dimensional printing. It's just a different way of saying 3D printing. So we could use that as a keyword, or we could click on it. We can click on 93 to see the top 93 subject terms. This is definitely going to change your search results. What you want to do is there's two ways of using this. You can click on the most relevant. In other words, pick one subject term, and it'll limit you to this number here, or click on as many that are relevant to you. I would also suggest by clicking on here, you can get an A to Z count if you're looking for an individual subject term. But I'm going to click cancel because I wanted to show you this one particular article right here. To see the full text, we're going to click on access options. It'll give you online full text and PDF right here, availability. But I did skip over something. I did want to tell you this. Look at the title. You'll see a snippet of the abstract in the subject terms. But if you want to see the actual abstract, you'll need to click on View Details and then scroll down, and you'll have the actual abstract here. And the abstract is basically a capsule form of the actual research study where you have the background, but then this tells you the background of the article, but this right here of the study, but this is where they talk about the study itself. including the methodology section here, and then their findings, their results section, I should say. And then here is their basically discussion section. Okay. So this is right here giving you a good indication that this is actually research, primary empirical research. And we want to go here and we can see online full text. This will give us, this is basically here for accessibility reasons. This is easier for a screen reader to read if you are a student with low vision and you use a screen reader. But if you don't, this is also kind of handy because you have this table of contents and you can quickly go to the methodology section, the results section, and your discussion section, and to determine if they have those elements to help you learn that if you're looking at a research study. Now, students also realize that if you use this right here, you're not going to be able to cite your work. So that's why we have the PDF also, because the PDF will give you the actual page numbers that you'll need for citation. Okay. And also, this is where the PDF will also show you, which is kind of gruesome, I apologize. The PDF will also have the raw data charts, graphs, and tables set out a little bit easier for you to read also than the online full text version. So if you ever are reviewing our literature in the UNT Dallas EBSCO EDS platform, you want to save the article by clicking on this bookmark link. Okay, and you can click on, let's say click on several just for an example. And the way you close out your session is you go over to the far right hand side of the page and click saved articles. And you can email yourself the articles by click on the little buttons here and clicking share. Unfortunately, it should say email right here, but we're having a little bit of an issue. Or you can use our citation management tool that the UNT Dallas Library supports, RefWorks, or any one of these other citation management tools. If you would like, you can set up an appointment to talk to me at the library, and I can help you learn more about RefWorks. But this is a citation management tool that'll help you organize your research and also create bibliographies, basically. But for the sake of time, I'm going to not go into too much more in depth in RefWorks. But again, you go to your saved folder and you can click export and select RefWorks to send this information to RefWorks so you can organize and save your work. Let me go back to our, so that's basically how we search using our EBSCO EDS. And this setting up of a search query can be used in any of our databases and also in Google or any search engine. You can follow, all of this follows in those areas also. So this will help you conduct your search. Does there, that kind of concludes our presentation today. Does anybody have any questions or any comments? Well, I just wanted to provide you, we have two surveys that you can use. We have one that's from the TTU STEM QR survey. And if that doesn't relate to you, you're more than welcome to use our UNT Dallas Library survey also. And we would appreciate any comments that you might have about the presentation today. And you can also add information about how you would like for the library to serve you in the future.
Thank you so much, Robert, for your expertise in this presentation. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
All right. Just as a quick follow-up, the TTU STEM QR survey If you are an LSAMP scholar, part of the Bridge Across Texas LSAMP Scholar Program at any of the participating institutions, you need to complete that follow-up survey. This seminar counts for participation, and we need to know how many scholars are in attendance. So that is if you are a LSAMP scholar, both here at UNT Dallas or at any of the Alliance schools, please, you need to complete that survey. I would also request that people do the library survey because that's how we get feedback and help support our partners and be able to provide you more of this kind of programming for you in the future. And thank you so much to Robert Taylor for putting on this wonderful presentation for us today.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Appreciate it. Thank you all, everyone, for taking your time today on this lovely Friday afternoon.